Alright, we are recording for chapter 19 of Revenge of the Sith. Okay, for a moment there it looked like the thing was tracking me, and that's supposed to be off. Might have bumped the button though. Anyway, so what was the name of it? I'm just trying to think. Yeah, the face of the Sith. Alright. Just trying to think, how could I sum this one up? It has Anakin slaughtering the separatist leaders that are on Mustafar. Obi-Wan and Yoda arriving in Coruscant with Bail Organa. Bail Organa goes to the Senate. They go off to the temple. Bail is with Padme when the first Galactic Empire speech is made. And it finishes with Obi-Wan and Yoda going through the temple, changing the signal and the recall signal, so to tell people to stay away. And also seeing the recording confirming that it is Anakin. Okay. Now, one thing that I noted early on when it's describing Mustafar, it's like, okay, this is a terrible place to hide. It really is. And I get that these leaders there, they're political leaders. But still, as he thinks at least one of them would have realized, I mean, I get we built a fortress here, a stronghold that, can repel any attack, but, what do we do when the food runs out? Because it's described as the whole planet being just covered in volcanoes and such, so it's not like there would be much normal means of supporting life. And also that's only the one installation, which means you only need to lay siege to one place on this planet. It's a dumb place to be. I was like, you'd be better off hiding somewhere like Naboo, Tatooine, even Coruscant. Actually, Coruscant would be even easier to hide at because there are supplies around. And also you can move around. There are crowds that you can hide in, essentially. So, yeah, it's really dumb, but they don't notice that. It does mention that the droids have been deactivated, so the war is officially over. It's just the cleanup that's left. So yeah, Bail lands and has two Jedi with him, and Obi-Wan is just mind tricking them, the guards there, to be like, oh yeah, it's perfectly alright for the Jedi that we should be trying to arrest to go with the senator. Because, I mean, the Senate is so guarded that they go in there, it'll be fine. It's not like, they can do any damage there. They'd be stopped, so they can be arrested when they come out. And it's even okay that they actually leave the Senate and go off to do something else. That's fine, too. I mean, at least we do have a Jedi mind trick being used. It is still just kind of weird how it is written from the point of view of the person being mind tricked. And it's like, oh yeah, that's fine. Oh yeah, that's fine. That's just a choice I disagree with. I can't say that it's poor. It's just I disagree with it. To have the point of view of the person being mind tricked. But then, the way that Obi-Wan and Yoda actually get into the temple, this one I disagree with more so. Obi-Wan pretends to be a hunchback coming up to a decoy squad, so basically clone troopers in Jedi robes. Pretends to be a hunchback coming up to them, saying, "Look, I'm an ally of yours. I'm a friend of yours. Look, I have a Jedi baby here. Don't you want this?" And it's like, seriously? I get the whole, distracting them to get close. But then it's like, that's an ugly baby. But how do we know it's a Jedi? Does my lightsaber convince you? Says Yoda as he comes out. And it's like, I get how it's kind of humorous, but it's also like, the temple, their home, has been attacked. And I get that they need to be careful approaching, but this just seems silly. Like, it would make more sense if this is a back entrance, if they snuck up by another means, distracted them, got close to them, and then killed them all. Or just, drop down on top of them or something, because this is described as being at a low level. So it's like, anything other than this just, as I said, it seems silly. And I don't think Obi-Wan and Yoda should be silly. Not in this situation. Um. So Bale arrives and is just hanging out with Amidala in the Naboo area, which it actually even describes. If even the irrepressible Jar Jar was worried, this looked to be even worse than he'd expected. Um, but he does try to comfort Padme by saying it's all a lie. You know that, don't you? I don't know what I know. Not anymore. Where have you been? I was held up. Yeah. But she... I'll get to it. Because there's actually a line that she gets later that is... I kind of like it. But it does tie in with this well. But anyhow. Okay, I'm just trying to see where... Where is it? I'm trying to spot where Palpatine was talking about... Yes. Now we will destroy the destroyers. Death to the enemies of democracy. Okay. All in the same speech. The Jedi Rebellion was our final test because the war's over. It was the last gasp of the forces of darkness. But then we get to the whole, to ensure that we will always stand together and, well, never again will we be divided. Never again will sector turn against sector, planet turn against planet, sibling turn against sibling. We are one nation, indivisible. Padme is predicting that. It's like, here it comes. Here what comes. You'll see. So she's, if not having special knowledge, which is possible, that she, like got something like a leaked press list, a leak of what he was going to be saying, but she could also just be suspecting it. To ensure that we will always stand together, that we will always speak with a single voice and act with a single hand. The Republic must change. We must evolve. We must grow. We've become an empire in fact. Let's become an empire in name as well. We are the first galactic empire. And Bale's like, what are they doing? Do they understand what they're cheering for? Because the Senate has been cheering for all this. And it is like, yes, we finally defeated the enemies of democracy. Now let's end the Republic and make it an empire. If we are an empire that will never return to the political maneuvering and corruption that have wounded us so deeply. We're an empire that will be directed by a single sovereign chosen for life. The Senate went wilder. We are an empire ruled by the majority, but a single sovereign. An empire ruled by a new constitution. That doesn't necessarily have to mean anything. An empire of laws, not of politicians. That right there should actually be a major red flag to all these senators to be like, yeah, wait, what? You mean we're not gonna have influence? Hang on. I mean, it's technically true. You can't have an empire with a constitutional empire. You can't have laws there. But let's be real. He's been breaking and not caring about the laws for a while. The whole empire, in fact, it's also been tyranny, in fact. An empire devoted to the preservation of a just society, which would just be one of laws. Of a safe and secure society, we are an empire that will stand 10,000 years. And he gets them cheering and such. And in a way, in the movie, you do get her saying, so this is how liberty dies, with cheering and applause. In this, it actually says that Bale can't hear her because everyone's cheering so loudly, but he can read her lips. Which in a way... I'm not necessarily sure how you'd convey it in the movie, because you need to know what she says. Not everyone can read lips, but in a way that would have been a more powerful image of her still, like, unphysically moved. But with all the noise, all the cheering, she just mouths it, and somehow you do know what she has said. Like, it could even be... In theory, if you have enough aliens talking in alien languages, so you're just used to the subtitles being shown there, and then when it gets to her, you can't hear her, and then you just have... But you have the subtitles appear. Not that she's speaking any language, but just because you can't hear her. That would be a way to set it up in the film so it makes some sense. But then Bale is like, we can still enter emotion, try to stop this, and this is where things get a little weird. No, Bale, you can't enter emotion. You can't. Fangzar has already been arrested, and Tundra, these other senders. And it won't be long until the entire delegation of the 2,000 are declared enemies of the state. Okay, so the whole petition, they're eventually going to be hunted down. You stayed off that list for good reason. Don't add your name by what you do today. It's like, what? Why is he not on that list? I don't recall this being mentioned before that he was on the list. Why is it? And it's like, for good reason. What is that reason? And apparently Mon Mothma is also not on that list. Because there's a mention later on where basically she's telling them, you have to vote for him. Vote for Palpatine, vote for the Empire. Make Mon Mothma vote for him too, so she isn't on the list either. Be good little senders, mind your manners, and keep your heads down, and keep doing all those things we can't talk about. All those things I can't know. Promise me, Bale. And it's like, why weren't they on that list? It is suspicious. I mean, fine, they have reasons. What are the reasons? It could just be well, we know it would be dangerous, and I don't want to endanger my family. Okay, you could say that. You could acknowledge that. It could have been acknowledged earlier. It could even have been because they are trying to start up a rebellion, and it's like, we can't expose ourselves yet. You will have our support, but it has to be quiet while we focus on this. And essentially, you're the distraction. If you guys succeed, great. Our efforts aren't needed, but it still is. Give the reason. And I don't recall it being given earlier. Maybe it was, and I forgot it. I somehow, while reading, my eyes just passed over it somehow. But I don't recall seeing it. So yeah, I am somewhat annoyed by that. Because it feels like it's just we know these two have to survive, so obviously they can't be on the list. But it was also a note I made previously. Why is he not hunted down? That is a problem. And this is like, oh yeah, there's a reason. What's the reason? I'm not telling you. It's alright, Padme, what you're talking about, what we're not talking about, it could take 20 years. I've been annoyed earlier in the book as well, and I'm going to be annoyed by this too, the whole just very on the nose, because it is 20 years. Luke is 20 years old and Leia are 20 years old when A New Hope occurs. So when the rebellion finally has this great victory, it is 20 years later, and it's like, really? I mean, do we have to be so on the nose? Come on. I mean, I do get the whole, it could take 20 years, but it could take 10 years, 20 years, 30 years. Make it something like that. Okay? Just emphasize that we have no idea how long it could be. Not just it could be 20 years, that happens to be exactly correct, but no, it could be, we don't know, it could be generations from now. Are you under suspicion? What are you going to do? Don't worry about me, she said distantly. I don't know I'll live that long. That I actually liked. Along with the whole, I don't know what I know, not anymore, where have you been? But I don't know what I know, not anymore. The note that I put in concerning this, especially with the I don't know I'll live that long, is Anakin's obsession with trying to save her. And how he, was concerned about making decisions that would actually lead to her death instead of doing things to avoid it. This captures here that she is somewhat broken, is somewhat emotionally broken, to the point that her not necessarily wanting to live is reasonable. Like, you can absolutely believe that would be the case here. That at this point, probably the only things that would give her motivation to live would be Anakin and the kids. She has reason probably to doubt Anakin, though, based on the conversation prior and how she's talking here. She probably suspects that Anakin is at the heart of some of these issues that she's now seeing. So it would really just be the kids, but even then, that might be hard for her to fully grasp. But yeah, yeah. So I do like that because it is setting up, because the movie does not convey that. And I know it's been a while since I watched, but the movie to me never conveyed that she really lost will to live prior to arriving on Mustafar and Anakin choking her, which I hope is actually not what's done here. Because that seems out of character enough for him. I mean, it seems out of character for him there as well in the movie. It seems out of character for him here. So I hope it's something else that he does that physically harms her, brings her close enough to death to either trigger labor or to just be like, we have to stimulate labor in order to potentially save the children. It's like, I hope it is different, but it still is. In the movie, it always seemed like it was just that and basically dying of a broken heart. This is still a broken heart to a degree, but it's like we're seeing it build up. Okay, what was the next thing? I don't think I need to refer to this anymore. So, Obi-Wan and Yoda are in the Jedi Temple, going through, seeing the various dead bodies, which, by the way, it is mentioned that all of the Jedi are going to be, like, they're checking their faces against the archives to make sure that they know they have all of them. They're also checking all the clones to make sure that everyone is accounted for. One thing that would have been neat if they had suggested was if somehow Obi-Wan and Yoda would also erase some of the archive records so that there would be some that's like, hey, we haven't accounted for these. Well, you don't know anymore. That would have been a clever bit of sabotage to have them do, but no, that's not what they're there for. But in any case, Obi-Wan is being very much impacted by seeing all these people dead. Friends of his and such. But it's like, that's the guy that taught me how to use the lightsaber. And Yoda's like, and I taught him. We have to keep going. One thing that would have been nice there, Yoda is almost 800 years old. So he has seen generations of Jedi live and die. Not necessarily die like this, but still live and die. And it would have been nice if there was something. Him just pointing that out, him reminding him of that it's not that he's heartless, or it's not even that he is so focused right now, but it is, he's already had to deal with this. He is somewhat steeled against it. It is impacting him, but he knows to move on because he's already had to. Like Obi-Wan, from what we know of, it's really only Qui-Gon he was close to who we know has died. There are other Jedi likely as well, but we don't know. Qui-Gon's the main one that we are familiar with. But I mean, yeah, think about with Yoda. Yoda's trained that one lightsaber dude whose name I don't remember. They were referring to him as the Troll. It's like, okay. Like that's a nickname for him. I don't know. But he trained Dooku, who's dead. He trained Qui-Gon, who's dead. He trained Mace Windu, who's dead. And it's like, there have been plenty before that too that he would have trained and have died. So, well, no, he didn't train Qui-Gon, but he trained Dooku, who trained Qui-Gon. So, yeah. Anyhow. It would have just, I think, been helpful to give Yoda more explanation for why he is able to just wade through these bodies while Obi-Wan is struggling. That to Obi-Wan, it seemed like some of these people he would have expected to die of old age alongside. Yoda has already seen that happen with so many that, yeah. So, with the Troll, one of the wounds was clearly not a blast wound, was a lightsaber wound. And Obi-Wan looks at it and recognizes that, but it's like, who could have done this? And Yoda says, you already know. You already know. And Obi-Wan's like, I have to know for certain. And you know what? Yeah, let me actually find it. Because there were some lines there that were kind of nice. Nicely written. Obi-Wan's expression never... Well, yeah. Seeing will only cause you pain. Then it is pain that I have earned. I won't hide from it. I am not afraid. You should be. That also annoyed me a little bit because that seems to be a clear reference to Empire Strikes Back. Well, wait. What's that? You should be, or is it you will be? Referring to Luke. But anyhow, Obi-Wan's expression never flickered, seeing, in the recording, Anakin hasn't appeared yet, but seeing so many Jedi being killed there. He opened himself to what he was about to see. He was prepared and centered and trusting in the Force, and yet, then the caped man turned to meet a cloaked figure behind him, and he was Obi-Wan staring wished that he had the strength to rip his eyes out of his head. But even blind, he would see this forever. He would see his friend, his student, his brother, turn and kneel in front of a black-cloaked Lord of the Sith. His head rang with a silent scream. You can skip over what the recording was. Fumbling nervously, Obi-Wan somehow managed to shut down the holoscreen. He leaned on the console, but his arms would not support him. They buckled and he twisted to the floor. He huddled against the console, blind with pain. Ian McGregor? Is that? I'm hoping I have the actor's name right. It's been a while since I watched the movie. I don't remember him emoting like that. But I kind of like, I do like it in the book, the description here, because that is very reasonable, that this is exactly what he would undergo here, that he would go through here. Because it is that painful for him, to see that it is Anakin that has done all this. Because of how much it is a failure, then, of his. But there's also one thing I will add. Obi-Wan is just reflecting on basically, I should have died. If I had died, then Anakin would never have been trained. None of this would have happened. Stop this, you will. Make a Jedi fall one cannot. Beyond even Lord Sidious, chose this Skywalker did. And I'm afraid I might know why. Why? Why matters not. There is no why. There's only a Lord of the Sith and his apprentice. 2 Sith and 2 Jedi. So, obviously, yes, Yoda's trying to turn it to, we have to do something. But, I don't necessarily like the whole Skywalker had to, chose this. It's like, well, that is true. The why is still important. It's kind of like I've seen some people criticize the Kenobi show that they did on Disney Plus, that it had the potential to actually be a very, very interesting show. I have not seen it. I'm just going by what people have said. With the idea of Obi-Wan Kenobi being in exile, more or less, on Tatooine, reflecting on his failures, and how that led to Anakin falling. Because it is possible, and I've been saying it for a while. I've had this theory that basically if Anakin's relationship with the Jedi was more healthy, was not as dysfunctional as it was, perhaps he would not have fallen. Now, given how he was written in this as such a freaking idiot, no, he probably still would have fallen even with all that. But it still is if not for certain aspects, certain rigid adherence to tradition, Anakin may have had a better shot. So the why does matter. The why does matter, despite what Yoda says. It doesn't matter right now. We gotta kill these people. You gotta kill these Sith, but it's... and there is also an element of... Yoda, to a degree, also would have failed. Like, this is not just a failure on Obi-Wan. It would be a failure on all the Jedi who knew Anakin and did not necessarily foresee this, but did not act in a way that would have in better ways that could have prevented it. Like, I do think it's reasonable if Mace Windu had brought Anakin with him to confront Palpatine, maybe things would have been different. Because would Anakin in that scenario... Well, here, think of it this way. In that scenario, Palpatine, even if Anakin was only observing, he would observe Palpatine attacking the Jedi. Like, refusing to just be arrested and attacking the Jedi. That could then trigger Anakin to be defensive and react to Palpatine by attacking him. It's like, it is possible that, but instead he only saw Mace and Palpatine fighting, and then also Mace not killing him immediately. I mean, there's a lot of decisions that could have been better, but it still is. I think that it is possible that his presence there, and also Mace's show of confidence in him. And I'm also trying to remember what else. That's right. Mace saw that he was like the shadow point, that all of the galaxy was going to turn on what Anakin's decision was, and he says nothing to him. He should have. If he had done that, that alone could have helped sway Anakin not to fall. Because it's also, as I recall saying in that video, if Anakin was in such a mental state, he would not have been able to keep a secret from Mace Windu or anyone. So him saying that, if Anakin had mentioned anything about Padme, I think, like, why would he tell you this? Things, what did he tell you? Kind of things like that would draw it out. Hopefully Windu's response would be, you're married. That's over here. Keep telling me things. Like, I need to know this. And it's like, because then, I'm pretty sure I said then this is also a reason why Anakin would potentially still go with Palpatine. It's like, Palpatine's promising, if he lied, which I already said, that should have been Palpatine is being turned into paste for that. But anyhow, might still be a lie, but paste. But Mace could also have promised everything the Jedi could do to keep her alive. Would dedicate fully, and could even say, we'll worry about what happens with you breaking the rules. We'll worry about that later. The Jedi are concerned with life. We love the Force. The Force is an aspect of life. We love life. We will do everything we can to save her. Never doubt that. So could do that. And Anakin, that would be reassuring. It would be calming for him. And may help him connect again with the Jedi. That they are his family. That they are a group that he can turn to, that he can rely on. So yeah, that would have been good, but not what they do. So yeah, I feel like even going through this, my theory still kind of holds my original theory that basically the Jedi were not really the good guys, and they certainly were not making decisions that they should have been making. It's not to say Palpatine was a good guy. He was absolutely evil. But that I think it is still, you can interpret the prophecy as Anakin could have chosen the light side and didn't, which then meant that it would fall to Luke, or Leia, to be the one who is balanced in that, possessing both good and evil within them, and not being just a rigid adherent to tradition, but being one who chooses between them. Because, in a way, even Palpatine's point about the kids, they're indoctrinated at such a young age, by the time that they can make a choice as an individual, they don't really have that choice anymore. They're only doing what they were raised specifically to choose to do. Remember, it's only been 20 that have ever left the Jedi Order. Whereas Anakin potentially could have, would choose, because he did have a life before and a life outside of the Jedi. And Luke was 20 before he got in there. So he was absolutely past the age of he'd be able to make independent choices. So he would be balanced in that regard, and that he can choose good, he can choose evil. Technically, he could have chosen evil, and that still would have been balanced, but he to do so with free will, as opposed to just giving into passion, that would be still balanced to a degree. So, yeah. I think that's kind of it. That I don't have much more to say, not much more in the book either. Just really want to confirm this. Looks like it's just 2 more chapters. Maybe that will be all tomorrow. I just want to confirm. Looks like this next chapter is pretty long. Yeah, the last one isn't that long. Almost 30 pages. Yeah. So that's definitely waiting for tomorrow. But yes, and that is how it ends. Okay. So yeah, yay! I'm looking forward to being done with it, because then I can get to a new book. And it also, oh man. Yeah, I can go another minute or two. Because I've not been, I have been enjoying the book more after part 1. But as I've said, I would have stopped reading if not for other reasons to keep reading. I would have stopped reading it within part one. I so hated part one, and there's still a lot of things that frustrate me here. And it might just be I'm checked out enough that I'm not. It's not provoking me to hate the story as much as I did earlier. I would still rank the lowest of them. That so Revenge of the Sith, Empire, Phantom Menace, Attack of the Clones, New Hope. There's a gap. And then Return of the Jedi. Top. I would still rank it that way. But it's yeah, I mean, because I have to stand by what I said before. Even if I am feeling better about the story after part one, and I know that there's still 2 more chapters, but we'll see how that goes. I still stand by what I've said before. What I will probably, hopefully, always argue for is that if you lose somebody early, it doesn't matter. You can't make something bad turn good when telling a story because somebody can just decide to stop reading and then go somewhere else. And then why would they ever come back? You've lost. Maybe they will come back, but I'm looking forward to getting to a different book that I know I'm going to enjoy. It's been like 15 years since I last read it, but I know I'm going to enjoy it because it is a better book, and I remember enjoying it before. And there'll be other stories I haven't read yet that, again, I will enjoy them. At least I expect I will. So why would I come back to it? I have to rate it lower, even if I've gotten more comfortable with the story. Have to rate it lower because I so hated the beginning. See you next time.